Charlina called me this week. It was really kind of an out of the blue phone call that I was absolutely bowled over to receive because Charlina, last time I saw her, wasn't doing very well. I wanted her to share her story of how she got from where she was when she first met me to where she is now. Let's go back about almost 4 years ago.
When I first contacted you, I was actually coming out of jail. I was living at Center for Drug-Free Living in Orlando, Florida. I guess it all goes back to a life of addiction. I had found myself going through a lot of things in life that kind of stemmed from my childhood. I was pregnant, I was alone, and I knew keeping my child wasn't an option. So when I was in jail, someone had told me about an adoption agency that actually came up, and they talked to the women in the jail, and I had spoke with them, and things just got kind of weird. They were wanting me to deal with the family overseas and told me I couldn't meet the family until after the adoption had taken place because they didn't want to take the chances. Long story short, I felt very uncomfortable. So when I got out of jail, I decided instead of going back to where I was, what I was familiar with, I decided to go to a drug rehab that allowed women and children. So, and pregnant women. And again, I knew from day one that really just keeping him wasn't an option. I was facing charges, facing prison time for some choices I had made prior to and continued to carry over. So I got out and I started calling other places. I contacted you. I remember the first time when I was looking for Kristen, who is the adopting mother, and she had been trying to adopt for 5 years, and there was something about her profile that single mother. And apparently what I know today was the reason she'd been trying to adopt for 5 years is because no one would pick her because she was a single mother. And my frame of mind where I was, because I don't care who you are or what you're going through or how bad you are on drugs or how worthless you feel as a person, a mother has love for her child. And this is probably the most selfless thing that I'd ever done. I mean, at the point I can find so many selfish reasons I was doing it, but as I reflect on it, I just wanted my child to be the center of someone's whole world. So for the very reason that no one else would pick her was the very reason that I wanted her.
Wow.
So I remember doing a FaceTime video with you, Linda, and McDonald's, actually. It was minutes from the rehab I was at.
Yeah.
And she asked me why I picked her, and when I told her, she started crying. And I guess, you know, I felt like it was a godsend, and my faith wasn't even that strong at this point. I was just a dry drunk, basically, or addict. And
what does that mean? Dry drunk or dry addict? What does that mean?
A dry drunk or dry addict is someone who's not really working on their self spiritually, no matter who your higher power is. Looking for peace and serenity and just inner peace and being okay with you. A power greater than ourselves. A dry drunk is not doing anything but staying sober. They're not searching for a better way of life or happiness. So to be completely at peace with yourself and to be completely sober, you've got to be taking steps. I do NA and AA. I have a sponsor. I work the steps. I go to church, but different things work for different people. So I'm not trying to pinpoint who I think someone's higher power should be, but at some point it helps to have one.
So you believed in God or a higher power before all of this happened, but that was not where your strength was coming from. You weren't accessing that strength.
My strength was coming from me. From my own will and how I thought that I could heal myself or I could get through this. And it's going to sound really bad what I'm going to say next, but there was a lot of selfish reasons I was doing, and selfless. I knew that I really didn't have an option. I have 2 children already. My daughter is now 13. My son is 10.
Mm.
I didn't even have them at the moment. And I never really considered keeping him, whether it was giving him to a family member or placing him for adoption. I never considered keeping him and raising him myself. It was just completely unfair, and I wasn't ready to stop what I was doing yet. I was facing criminal charges. I thought I was going to prison. I just wanted to do me. So I found a lot of selfish reasons. I figured I could reap benefits of, I could help pay for my lawyer to get me out of trouble, and then he'd be with the safe home. And at the same time, I had so many different thoughts and emotions going through my head. But at the end of the day, it was all the end result that he would be with a better family.
Now, why did you not consider placing him where your other children were with your family?
My mother, this is where it gets kind of deep. I find out I'm pregnant with Mason, and my mother dies right after 2012. My children were with my mother and my stepfather. So when my mom passed away, it was just my stepfather raising my children, who is partially disabled. And in a lot of sense, we're speaking of the same people who raised me, and they did a lot of things to change their life in the end. So I'm not downing anyone, but even if I wanted that, I don't think that he was physically capable of caring for another child. And I really didn't want to go that route anyway. Yeah. I thought that he would be better with someone maybe a little more financially stable, a little more educated, someone who would be able to provide all the things that, I wish I had growing up.
Now, your children know about Mason.
They do.
And when did you tell them that you were pregnant or that you had a baby? What point in time was that?
I did it. I was in Department of Corrections. I wrote letters home to my stepfather, and I guess my daughter came across one of the letters one day, and that's actually how they found out, which I was going to tell them anyway, but she kind of beat me to the punch.
Yeah.
So, little girls are nosy.
Yes, they are. So what were your children's reactions to your decision to place Mason for adoption?
My daughter's first response was, when do I get to meet him? So I had to explain to her that, the kind of adoption that I have is open. So meeting him is one day very possible. I don't feel at this point in my life it's something I want to do, really, because he's just so small. I wouldn't want to confuse him. And the adopting mother is going to be very open with him. And at some point when I'm going to leave that on their end. So when I know in my heart, I feel that he's going to want to meet me one day. And hopefully at that point, I'm working on myself, and I'll be able to look at him and explain without having any remorse or shame, and have pride in what I've done. Because I do have pride in it today.
And you should. You should be incredibly proud of how you handled that situation with him and everything that's come after that, Charlina. I know that it wasn't all rosy and uphill after you gave birth to him, and I want to get into that. But first, let's kind of go chronologically. You talked about meeting quote unquote Kristen via a video chat, sitting in McDonald's, and then what was your relationship with her during your pregnancy from that point till the hospital?
She was amazing. I remember being in there, and she would send me these fuzzy little bathrobes and stuff to kind of keep my head up and to keep me comfortable while I was there. We would have phone calls twice a week, where we had a set time where she would actually call and talk to me, and she was amazing. I remember calling her from the hospital letting her know that they were doing an emergency C-section. And it was that night. I know she was there the following morning. She
Well,
was up at her, and lives
out of state.
Right. So, she was there fairly quick. She's amazing. My relationship with Kristen was good then, and it continues to be great today.
So what was it like at the hospital with Mason?
It was very depressing and very sad, but mostly because of another part of my story. I stayed in a rehab the whole time, and I'm not sure if it was subconsciously a way because, I was fearing. I never considered keeping him. That's not what I'm saying, but it's never a fun thing to carry a child for 9 months and give him away. And so my 9th month, a week before my scheduled C-section, I decided to go out and use drugs. So in doing so, directly afterward, I brought myself to the nearest emergency room where I told them that I had used narcotics and I was 9 months pregnant and that I was having pain. Wasn't really having pain at this point. I wanted it to be over with. So
that was I remember that, Charlina. I remember you checking yourself out. I remember talking with me before you did it.
Yeah.
And, how scared I was that you were going to do that. And, but you did it. And then you got yourself involved in drugs. Do you think that, do you have any thoughts about that? Do you think there was any sort of subconscious impetus that made you, because you wanted it to be over? Do you think you went out and did drugs to get it over? Or
I do. I think that's where the whole spirituality and a foundation, and my foundation in Christ should have been stronger, because where I was leaning on my own will and doing what I thought and the best method for me to cope with it was to kind of take the option away from me. Which had I done things and but then in the same breath, Linda, had I done things differently, I wouldn't have learned the lesson and I wouldn't be the person that I am today. Yeah. And everything worked out exactly how it was supposed to. But yes, I agree with you on that. Who stays clean their entire pregnancy, voluntarily goes to a rehab, has the option of using every day and doesn't do it. They wait 1 week before they give birth to use. Who does that in their right mind? So I think
I'm sure you were in your right mind, but we do crazy things, for crazy reasons. All of us do. And you had stayed clean the whole pregnancy. Mm-hmm. And, I was so proud of you and admired you for that, because even though you're in a center for drug-free living, I know that it's easy to get access to drugs there.
Yeah.
And you didn't do it. And, do you think, were you at all reconsidering your decision at that point when you went out, when you checked yourself out and went and got some drugs? Were you second guessing your decision? Were you scared? Was it self-destructive? Or do you think it was just, I want to get this over with and this will do it?
I never second guessed the decision, and it's kind of weird at times, because when I look back, I never guessed or questioned whether I should do it or not. I think it was more of a, I didn't want to feel it anymore. I just wanted it to be over with.
Yeah. Well, and then you did the right thing again. You went to the hospital, even though you weren't experiencing pains. You went to the hospital. And so then Kristen arrived the next morning. Mm-hmm. And what was
and
it?
You.
And me, yes. Talk about that experience. What was it like then?
It was okay. The hospital experience was terrible. The doctors treated me like scum. At which point, maybe I felt the role. When Kristen came, I was on methadone throughout my pregnancy at Center for Drug-Free Living. He was on he was on a really low dose. I did manage to stay low. He never even detoxed off of it. They let him out. Anytime a baby is born on methadone, they keep them for a minimum of 5 days, and that's whether they're detoxing from it or not. Now, I was down to 20 milligrams. So after the 5th day, they let him out. But because of that, they had to bring him to another hospital to put him in the NICU for the 5 days just to monitor him. And unfortunately, the hospital that I went to did not have a NICU. So when Kristen arrived, instead of going to the hospital where Mason was, she came to see me first. Such a big deal to me because I felt all alone. Now I had this part of me was no longer a part of me. And it was big. For her to come and see me first was a big deal. And she came bearing gifts and wanted to make me comfortable and asked how I was feeling. I was honest with her about what I had done, explained everything to her, and that was my first time meeting her face to face. I mean, we talked on the phone, we did FaceTime and stuff like that, but that was my first time meeting her, and it was amazing.
That was a huge step that she took to come see you first and to care for you first. Gosh, that's so, speaks so highly of her, speaks well of her. So, well, and then she went to see Mason, and then she came back and told you her thoughts about Mason. And what was that like? What did she say?
She was completely in love. I think she had a lot of fear. The next 2 days were kind of, you can tell, an emotional roller coaster for her. And, which I think would be for any family trying to adopt, the mother has the option of changing her mind.
Yes.
So you could see a lot of her anxiety ease when I signed the adoption papers. And I was actually pushing to sign them sooner. I remember calling you, like, when are you going to be here? I just wanted to get it over with. Like, I just wanted to be able to breathe.
Yeah.
So,
now that I don't remember you calling me to push me to come, but
no, you called me also, but I remember calling you and just ready to get it over with. I called my dad. I was like, I was just ready to have that part of my life behind me.
Yeah. And understandable, because you'd already made the decision and the commitment, and absolutely understandable.
She actually rented me a hotel room right across the street from where Mason was. So when I was released from my hospital, I went to stay with her and her mother. I had my own room, but I went to stay over there so I could spend the next 24 hours with Mason.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure anybody else's experience through the adoption process, but I was truly blessed. This woman is absolutely amazing in so many ways. And I couldn't have asked for more.
Yeah, that I did not know. I did not know that she had done that. That is amazing. Wow. Wait, maybe I do remember that. Yeah, okay, it's coming back to me now. It's been a while.
Well, I had expressed, like, my concern. I was a little heartbroken that I wasn't going to be able to spend any time with him in the hospital. Mm-hmm. So I had told her that I wanted to come and see Mason there. So at that point, I guess they were staying at the hotel across the street from the hospital anyway. So
yes, I do remember that now. Yeah. Phenomenal that she did that. Well, so what's it been like? She took Mason home after a few days of him being in the hospital, and we had to do interstate compact, of course, because she was from a different state, so that took a few days. But we were doing that simultaneously while he was in the hospital. So it probably wasn't more than about a week to 10 days at most that she was here, and she was able to go home. Now, as I recall, she had her brother living with her.
Yes.
And is he still living with her? Do you know?
I'm not real sure. Uncle Ian, or maybe Uncle Ian was. I'm not sure if he's still living there or not. Okay,
because I remember talking with her about that being, because she's a powerhouse. Worker, she's high up in her company, and I'm sure works some hours. And one of the questions that I had before I ever even considered suggesting her to you was this baby going to get the time and attention that he deserves? And it was very clear to me that he was going to be her whole world. And in addition to that, her brother resided with her and wanted to help take care of Mason.
He was like a live-in nanny from what I remember.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
And I mean, I haven't really asked her questions. She stated when I was, after Mason was born, I went on a drug binge.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Because I remember you're coming to my office and it was time to release some funds to you that I had been holding in escrow that were due you. And I remember my trepidation of giving those to you because you didn't look good. When you came to my office, you did not look good. I fully believe that you were using drugs at that time.
I was.
Yes, I knew you were. And I didn't want to do it, but I didn't really have a choice. So tell me about that. Tell me where you went when you left the hospital.
I left the hospital. I went back to Center for Drug-Free Living. I got all of my stuff. I went to, the first day or two, I went to try to pay my license off. I had intentions. I was going through some legal issues for a trafficking charge for drugs that I was planning on paying my lawyer. I went to try to get my license straightened out and things like that. And within a matter of days, I ended up in a hotel room doing heroin.
Oh, wow.
And all forms of cocaine, Xanax, you name it. It took a while. Needless to say, I never paid my attorney. So I ended up ultimately going to prison for 3 years. Best thing that ever happened to me, it saved my life.
Wow.
So that's what happened from there. So I mean,
and I didn't hear from you at all when you were in prison. I didn't even know you went to prison.
I actually attempted to try to locate your information, but it was really like a touchy situation. I mean, I had asked my dad to locate your number a couple times. They have what's called a resource room and a classification officer. In prison, they have all of the pregnant women in one dormitory at the main unit. And there are so many women that just need help and needed someone to reach out to, or really had nowhere for their children to go and were serving lengthy sentences. So I thought about you often. I had reached out and even wrote the classification officer and tried to get your contact information. It just became too much. At times I kept getting moved around to the work camp, to the annex, to the main unit, at which point you have to start the processes all over again.
Wow.
So it just became too much. But I thought about you often. Thought about Mason all the time. And I know I wanted to wait until I was out and I was doing good, and not one of those situations to where you're out for a week, you call everybody, and then 2 weeks later you're doing the same things that you were doing all over again.
Wow. Well, what was the transition for you while you were there? You were at, can we say the name of the location where you were?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lowell Correctional.
Okay. Here in Florida. And it's an all-women's prison. And what happened there that changed your life?
I was arrested February 6, 2015. And by that point, and you got to keep in mind, my son was born at the end of 2013. For that whole period, it was just one big rat race for me. I was either using or I was trying to figure out ways to use. By the time I was arrested, February 6, 2015, I remember leaving a drug dealer's house and being in the car with my friend and getting pulled over, leaving this house. And as soon as they came to the window, I remember thinking, and you got to keep in mind, my faith wasn't even strong at this point. I remember thinking, thank God it's finally over. Wow. I just wanted, I was grateful. I was done. So I got arrested. I told them that I had a warrant, and I said, I don't have anything on me. Can we please just, get this process going? My worst fear at that point, it sounds crazy, was having to sit on the road for 2 hours while they did all this paperwork. I'm like, can't we just get me in the car and take me to jail? I just want to get where I'm going. It's a whole process going to jail. Unfortunately, I was aware of that. So, and they did. They took me straight to jail. They're like, all right, we can't argue with that. And took me straight to jail. It took about 10 minutes before I was actually on my way to the jail.
Orange County Jail?
This was Orange County, but my charges that I had a failure to appear on were actually Brevard County. So I sat there for a few days. I was brought to Brevard County Jail, where I sat, and basically I was there for an additional 5 or 6 months. And when I got to prison, I started going to chapel services in jail. I was baptized on August 27th of 2015. And my life has not been the same since. I was happier, and this even applies to today. And the happiest moment in my entire life was while I was in prison. I remember being at such peace and serenity that no one could steal my joy. You could take my freedom, but you couldn't take my joy. And that was inside the walls. And I'm happy, and I have a great life today. But that feeling I will never forget. It's something that even today, I
Where did the joy come from?
From within, from acceptance, from realizing that I can't do this on my own. One day at a time.
Yeah. Wow.
You just got to accept everything that's happened to you, and realize at some point that there's nothing that you can do other than what you're doing, and the next right thing. Mm-hmm. Karma's real to me today. You can't just live your life doing bad things with no reverence for anything for that matter, and expect a great outcome. I wish I would have known, and I was aware of what a spiritual foundation would have done for my life, and maybe I could have started it sooner. Handled things a little bit differently, not trying to seek self-medicating or self-will, and but in the same breath I say that, I say this, everything worked out exactly how it was supposed to.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that for everybody's life. But at the same time, it wouldn't have happened but for your decision, your determination, your will, and some intangible things that I wish I understood. And so what I'm trying to figure out now is, why are you different? How does your thinking impact you, whereas someone else in another situation, in a similar situation, has been unable to accomplish what you've accomplished? What is that intangible, would you say? Do you have any idea what it is?
I wish that I could say, do this or do that. But the reality is that until you truly want something from the inside, and I can't explain that. Linda, I wish that I could. Yeah. But no matter what I say to you, no matter what I've been through, I can sit with another addict or another woman. And until sometimes, the sad reality is sometimes you've got to be forced to be sober before you actually want to be sober. And until you want to be sober, you don't attempt anything towards a different lifestyle. For me, it took being incarcerated. It took every bit of the 2.5 years that I was incarcerated. Now, certain things help. Hearing other people's story or feeling that you have someone to relate to. But I don't even know this girl talking to you today. Well, this girl doesn't know the other girl.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. I don't know what's different. It's definitely intangible.
You can't even relate to the person you were before. You don't think the same thoughts, I'm hearing.
No. Yeah. I have days, and don't get me wrong, I have days where I'm like, well, God, this is it. Like, everything is so much more fun when you're drinking or when you're able to do this. And then I'll sit and I'll remember the good times or the funny moments when I was out using. But the reality is that look where it got me. And it's never just one drink. I might be able to pull that off for a week or 2 weeks, and then it always ends up exactly the same.
Wow.
So today, when I think about doing things like that, I just remember everything that I have now. I've been out of prison 6 months. I have a new car. I have a really good job. I'm in college, 4.0 GPA. I have
Wow.
an amazing life. I see my kids every other weekend. I don't know where all of this came from, but I know it's amazing. The life that I have now is even better than I had before I started actively using.
What do you see yourself doing in 2 years from now, 5 years from now? What will your life
Um,
look like?
I would probably say my 5-year goal, ultimately I would have graduated. I want to open some kind of center to guide and direct young women who have been through similar situations. Mine stemmed all the way from childhood. I grew up through addiction, and that's a whole nother story beside itself. But I want to help young women. I want to give them options and not necessarily say, hey, you know what, you're doing this. I would like to give them the option and a choice at a better life. So not only, let them make that decision on their own and not judge them or condemn them for anything that they've done or they're still doing. Just let them know whatever their decisions are and wherever they're at mentally, that there are options for them. There's ways to help them. And if it's for nothing else, even if they're not done with that lifestyle, because for a lot of people, they don't want to hear, oh, well, we can help you through it. They're not done doing what they're doing. And if that's the case, don't, sometimes being selfish is being selfless. If it means reaping the benefits or wherever my mind was at the time, it worked. My son today is with an amazing family. He has an amazing life. It brought me down a road that led me to exactly where I'm at today. And I don't regret any moment of anything that happened.
Wow.
I just want to be able to help women that are going through what I'm going through, because I know it a lot of times in the things that I was doing, you don't want to deal with someone when you think that this is what you've decided to do with your life, and you don't want them to try to talk you into doing things differently. You just want a hand to do and walk you through whatever you're doing, or to be accepted or not judged. So and you were amazing. I want to tell you that you were really amazing, but it's a little different. I guess why I have so much passion behind it is because I've been there.
Yeah. Well, how did I help you? I'm just doing what I do. So I'd like to know what, so I can repeat it with others. What was it that I did that helped you? Just accept you, or?
Well, you were not only accepting. I know you would pick me up and I was at Center for Drug-Free Living. I had my father in my life, but there wasn't a lot of support and from family or just feeling like someone cared. Mm-hmm. So I know you would, you had a group of people that worked with your office. They would contact me. You guys brought me shopping. Most importantly, Linda, you put me through into contact with one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my entire life, and that would be Kristen.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Sometimes people are put in your life at the time and season exactly when they're supposed to be in your life, and I feel like you were there for a reason. The experience was great. Your workers. God, I have so many apologies for that poor lady. I can't even remember her name.
I do.
The one that would pick me up and bring me shopping. Tell her I am so sorry. My behavior was out of control.
The stories she would come and tell me.
Yeah. I was a mess. That's what I meant by being a dry drunk, because although I was not using, I was still my ways of thinking and my perception was really off.
Yeah. You weren't that bad. I'm kind of joking around with you because you brought it up, but
stop the madness.
She actually had pretty low tolerance for anyone. So oh, that's so funny. But yeah, it was an honor to work with you, Charlina. Thank you. And I was so scared for you at the end, as I said, because the last time I saw you you were back using drugs out of the hospital after birth and out of the Center for Drug Free Living. And I knew that one time you called me, I knew it was from a dealer's house. I knew it was. I was absolutely helpless to do anything to help you at that time. So I'm just so thrilled and grateful that you got what you needed and that you found the strength within yourself to grasp the guidance that was surrounding you and, just did everything that you needed to do to get you where you are. And I mean, you're a miracle. I don't know if you realize what a miracle you are, but
I do.
It's, not many people can come out of it and be on the path that you're on. So what do you want to do now? You said you want to help other women who are going through addiction or find themselves in the situation that you were in. Do you have any clear picture of what that looks like? Or
I'd be lying if I said I did. Right now I'm just going to school for business management just to learn like the business aspects of, because no matter what you do, whether it's nonprofit or, matter which end, there's just certain things you need to know.
Yeah.
So from there, I don't know. I've thought about nonprofit organizations, just kind of, because for me, it's going to be a little harder with my background, but I know I want to help women like myself. So I haven't really made a plan of exactly how I want to go about that, but it'll happen.
Well, we'll have to talk and see if we can brainstorm some ideas for you. So I would love to be part of that if I could, to help you however I can, because it's an incredibly honorable and admirable goal to have. I do what I can, but you could do so much more.
So I just want to kind of say one thing to other women, if they're watching this and they're kind of considering if they're going through something. And I understand if you're just not ready to quit what you're doing right now, but at the same time, at some point, if you're pregnant and you've got to make some kind of decision where your child is concerned, for me, growing up through addiction, which is my family members, sometimes you got to make a selfless decision. So if putting your child with the same people who raised you could result in the same situation you're in today, you might want to ask yourself, do you want a better life for your child? If keeping him is not an option because you're just not ready to stop, it's a same situation you went through, or replacing him with something better. And there's no judgment. Just sometimes you got to do a little bit more soul searching and kind of come up with what's better for him or her, Just kind of review your options there and think about that for a while, because not one day do I regret what I've done. I get pictures, I get updates. It's an open adoption. And there are so many people out there that are willing to do open adoptions. They just want a child so badly. It's perfect. I can find out anything I want to know about my child at any time. And by all means, if you have a great family that's willing to take your child and they're great parents and they can provide for this child and make sure that they have the best future, then you're luckier than I was. But I didn't have that option. So I feel like this is the most selfless thing I've done in my entire life. And not one day do I regret it.
Yeah, yeah. And he's going to grow up knowing what a wonderful person you are, both then and now. To have made that decision for him and in his best interests. And he's going to love and appreciate you immeasurably forever. So do you have a plan? Have you and Kristen talked about if you might meet him at some point, or when that might happen, or if it might happen?
I haven't mentioned it, and it's usually when I ask Kristen for pictures or anything like that, she's more than willing. And she's said it from the beginning, just to let me know and keep an open line of communication, which is key in any relationship. But I think I'm just going to leave it alone for a while. I don't want to confuse him. I'm completely, for me, I'm happy and content just seeing his photos and getting updates. So at some point he's he's going to know who his real mother is, and I'll let him choose that time and place when we meet.
I think that's so wise. I really believe that's so wise. It really needs, and the fact that you trust Kristen to, speak well of you to him, so he grows up admiring you and loving you, even though it's from a distance right now, and that when he is old enough to make that decision for himself, then to reach out to you.
Well, see, there's a lot of things. When for my situation, I'm not sure. I'm assuming now, if I was the one adopting a child, I would not tell my 4-year-old, "Hey, I'm not your real mommy." So I'm just assuming that, I'm not sure what age she's going to tell him, which is, why I don't ask too many questions where that's concerned. I don't want anyone to feel pressured to do something before they're ready. So I'm just having faith that she'll tell him whenever she feels is the best time for him, and whatever age that is. And then at some point he can make that decision to contact me. But, who's to say? I don't know him like that she does. I don't know where he's at, as a child, or different stages that'll go through, or when would be the right time to tell him, like, he's her child. Like, I gave birth to him, but I do have faith that Kristen is going to let him know, and that she's going to do it in just the right time. And I have faith that he is going to love me and appreciate what I did for him.
Yeah, because she loves you.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's incredible. Well, anything, any parting thoughts or advice that you want to share before we wrap this up?
No, I feel like no, not really. I feel like we covered everything. I thank you for everything you've done for me. I was excited to be able to kind of give back. I was really excited about this today when I contacted you, because I want to give back in some way, in whatever form that is. And you gave me that opportunity. So I thank you for today and for Mason. And I wish you the best of luck, and anyone that maybe I was able to help through this message. I wish you the best of luck as well.
Well, you made me cry on Wednesday when you called me, and I was just so appreciative to hear from you, and to have you reach out to me and let me know that you have just turned out so wonderfully, and your life is wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to hear from you. And thank you for agreeing to do this with me, because I think telling your story is powerful, more powerful than anything that anybody could say. Third party, it's hearing it from you directly is just incredibly powerful. So thank you so much. And let's keep in touch and think about brainstorming some ideas for you moving forward on your goals.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Charlina.
Thank you.